Hello and welcome back. Isn't it shocking how many of us have been a victim of a data breach? It's becoming all too common. In this episode, the team discusses recent issues surrounding the Hertz data breach, as has been detailed in official reports and news articles. Here's a bit of background as to what they're discussing. In early 2025, Hertz, which owns the Hertz, Dollar, and Thrifty car rental brands, confirmed that sensitive customer information was exposed in a cyber attack. This breach was not due to a direct compromise of Hertz's own systems, but rather resulted from a hack of Clio, a third-party file transfer software provider used by Hertz and many other companies. Hackers, specifically the CL0P ransomware group, exploited zero-day vulnerabilities in Clio's platform in October and December 2024. As a result, personal data, including names, contact details, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, and in some cases social security numbers, passport information, payment card details, and workers' compensation claim information, was stolen from Hertz's records. Hertz has stated that so far there is no evidence their internal network was breached, but the stolen data poses serious risks such as identity theft and fraud. The breach affected thousands of customers in the US and internationally, with notifications sent to those impacted and disclosures made to state regulators. To support affected individuals, Hertz is offering 2 years of free identity monitoring and dark web monitoring through Kroll. The company encourages everyone who rented from Hertz, Dollar, or Thrifty between October and December 2024 to be vigilant for phishing scams and to monitor their accounts for suspicious activity. If you believe you may have been affected, you should carefully review any notification letters from Hertz and consider enrolling in the free protection services offered. For more details, you can download a data sheet from our website listed at the end of the video. Now here's the team.
Okay, let's dive in. So you've given us the stack of articles, information, and it looks like it's all zeroing in on something pretty big happening with Hertz and, well, customer data, specifically these legal challenges popping up.
Absolutely. Yeah, the material you shared really focuses on claims around a data breach, apparently hitting Hertz customers, and then these lawsuits that the sources are talking about.
Right. So I guess our mission here is to sort of cut through this information you've provided. We need to unpack what these specific sources are telling us about what's claimed to have happened, who might be affected based on these details, and what the legal side looks like according to them.
Think of it as us pulling out the key nuggets from the material you handed over, just giving you a faster route to getting up to speed on this particular situation.
Yeah, because the headlines immediately caught my eye. It's not just, a data issue, but actual lawsuits being filed. That definitely changes things, makes it seem more serious.
It really does. It shifts the focus from, just a technical glitch to questions of accountability, maybe recourse for people. Let's get into what your sources actually say.
Perfect. All right, so according to the lawsuits mentioned in these articles you sent, what exactly are they claiming happened with the data?
So, based purely on the sources you've shared, the central claim seems to be about a data breach, right? Where customers' personal information got exposed somehow. The lawsuits specifically allege that pretty sensitive data was compromised.
Sensitive data. Okay, what kind of sensitive data are these sources saying the lawsuits mention?
Well, the material you provided suggests the claims involve things like customers' driver's license numbers and potentially payment card information, too.
Whoa, okay. Driver's license numbers, that feels like.
Right.
Yeah, that's way more than just an email address leaking. Did the sources give any hint about how this breach is alleged to have happened?
They focus a lot on the lawsuits themselves, but they do mention the allegations within those filings. Some sources seem to point towards a claim of a vulnerability, maybe a security weakness, that let someone get unauthorized access. It's really important to remember, though, as the sources state, these are claims being made in court filings.
Got it. Okay, so the main takeaway from the material is civil lawsuits are happening, claiming a Hertz data breach exposed customer info, including, notably, driver's licenses and payment details, possibly because of some security flaw they allege existed.
Exactly. And understanding the kind of data they claim was exposed is, well, it's critical because that directly ties into the who part of this deep dive.
Which leads us right there. Based on these sources and that type of data, who are the customers potentially caught up in this?
Well, if the claims about driver's license numbers are accurate, then logically, any customer who gave that info during a rental could potentially be affected. Same logic applies to payment card info exposure.
Hmm.
The sources do indicate these lawsuits might be trying to represent a pretty wide group of people.
So yeah, we could be talking about a significant number of people who've rented from them, especially if they needed to show a driver's license. Okay, and that brings us to the legal angle. What are these lawsuits, as described in your sources, actually trying to achieve?
Right, so the sources describe them as civil actions. Now, the exact details might differ between cases, but generally, in data breach situations, civil lawsuits like these, they typically seek damages. Compensation for the harm claimed by affected individuals. That could be things like costs for identity theft monitoring, maybe even something for their time and stress dealing with it.
Okay.
And significantly, some sources mention a class action lawsuit approach is being pursued. That's a framework which could potentially allow a really large group of affected customers to be represented all together in one case.
Ah, right, a class action. That makes sense if the number of potentially affected people is as large as the type of data leak might suggest. It's really interesting how quickly a security incident, as described in these sources, can turn into these complex legal battles focused on getting some kind of remedy for the people potentially impacted.
It definitely highlights the serious legal ramifications tied to data security these days, especially when sensitive personal information is allegedly involved.
Okay, so we've walked through the material you brought us, pulled out the key claims about this alleged Hertz data breach, the specific sensitive data points like driver's licenses that the lawsuits mention, the potential scope of who might be affected, and the kind of legal action being taken, like those class action efforts.
Yeah, we have. And looking at everything presented in the sources you shared, the alleged breach itself, the specific kinds of data involved, like driver's licenses, and then this legal response through civil lawsuits. Maybe here's something to think about further. What is the focus in these lawsuits on specific data types like driver's licenses? Tell us about how the legal system is evolving and perhaps about how we perceive the value and the vulnerability of our different pieces of personal information today.
That's a really good question to chew on. It definitely makes you think about how the law is trying to keep pace with, well, our data-driven world. Thanks for bringing these sources to us for this deep dive.
Thanks again for listening, and remember, if you believe you may have been impacted by the recent Hertz data breach, here are some options and next steps. Monitor your information. If you received a notification letter from Hertz, follow the instructions provided. Hertz is offering 2 years of complimentary identity monitoring through Kroll. Enroll using the details in your letter to help protect your credit and identity. Contact legal support. You may be eligible to join legal actions or mass arbitration to seek compensation. You can sign up for mass arbitration at classaction.org. Hertz data breach. For class action inquiries, there are a list of law firms investigating the breach in our datasheet. Reporting concerns. If you suspect you are a victim of identity theft, report it to the Federal Trade Commission at identitytheft.gov. And consider placing a fraud alert or credit freeze with the major credit bureaus. You can also report your concerns to your state attorney general's office. Connect with litigation managers. To join ongoing litigation or mass arbitration, fill out the appropriate forms on the law firm websites listed in the datasheet. They will review your case and contact you about next steps. In summary, if you received a data breach notification from Hertz, consider enrolling in the free identity monitoring, monitor your accounts, and consider contacting a law firm to discuss your legal options. Use the provided links to join mass arbitration or class actions, and report any suspected identity theft to the FTC. If you need help navigating these steps, a legal professional can guide you through the process and help protect your rights. If you've been a victim of a data breach, please leave a comment on what you did to mitigate any damage. And once again, thanks for listening. Don't forget to download your free data sheet on our website. See you at our next episode.